Assalamu alaikum ji, and good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome all of you to the training workshop on Mendeley. My name is Harun Sampson. I'm the Senior Manager, ORIC. And in this training today, we are going to learn a presentation on how to organize thesis or your papers. There will be hands-on training from installation to usage, and there will be practice questions. I would like to introduce you to our esteemed resource persons, Dr. Hira Khalid and Mr. Rashid Hussain. Dr. Hira Khalid is a faculty member of FC College. She earned her PhD in chemistry. She is serving as an associate professor of chemistry and leading PI of the HK research group in the Department of Chemistry of former Christian College. HK group research focuses on organic synthesis, medicinal chemistry, drug discovery, and drug design. She is an associate member of the Royal Society of Chemistry, member of American Chemical Society, and lifetime member of Chemical Society of Pakistan. We are very happy and we are very privileged to have her here as a faculty member. And accompanying her is Mr. Rashid Hussain. He did his MS in bioinformatics and is currently pursuing his doctoral studies on the topic of design and synthesis of HCV NS3 protease inhibitors in the Department of Chemistry of former Christian College. I welcome all of you and I welcome our esteemed presenters, and over to them to start the training. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone. So this is Dr. Hira Khalid and I welcome you for this event and workshop. So thank you so much, Harun, for this very overwhelmed introduction. So this event is basically based on the hands-on training, and we will talk about firstly that what is the key elements for writing and drafting your thesis writing and the paper, but exclusively we are focusing on the thesis writing. So thesis writing is basically you can plan or you can divide your any of the research project in the three elements. One is the planning, the second is the experimental, and the third is your write-up. So the write-up is as important as you conduct your experimentation. So today we will talk about this, and eventually in the second part you will see that how you can arrange the reference by Mr. Rashid Hussain. So objective of thesis writing is basically that the thesis writing is about to produce an original piece of research work on a clearly defined topic. This is not that now generally you are covering that you are conducting any research on biomolecules or you are conducting any research on environment or the business. So this is basically that you have picked a certain defined and focused topic that on which you will conduct your experimentation, you will collect the data, and now you are here to write up and to draft. So your drafting is as important that how you are presenting your efforts, that you have made some of the hypotheses, then you have conducted experimentation for extracting some of the inferences and conclusion and your key findings. So writing your dissertation is likely to be one of the most challenging you have ever undertaken, but equally this is very much rewarding because now this is your intellectual property. So concentrate on it. This is not the part to ignore because this is something which is the ending result of your own all of the efforts. That could be the 2-year research years or the 5-year if you are conducting your PhD or the doctoral thesis. So here I want to quote one of the statement, one of my personal favorite by the Sir Francis Bacon, reading make a full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. So from the reading, you are enabling yourself to make that you are getting the literature enough for this. So I will discuss it in the further slides, that what is an importance for the literature review here. So conference means that you are attending some of the workshops, you are meeting, you are networking, and you are presenting your research work. And after all, there is a writing, right? So next to this, we will talk about the general structure of the thesis writing. So here I will mention that what are the key structural parts for the thesis writing. So like an academic paper for a journal publication, dissertation generally follow a standard structure. So this standard structure means that there could be something extra depending on your universities, depending on your countries, they have the different templates for these one. So basically every general journal paper, your research publication or the paper write-up and the dissertation follow these standard structure. So the first one is basically introduction, then literature review, methodology, result and discussion, conclusion and excess sections. And these excess sections include your some of the main pages. These include certifications, these include dedication, acknowledgement. So these are the extra sections which are depending on that, and that is just up to you. This is not actually the technical part of the thesis write-up. So then the references. So references is aim for today, that we will teach you that how you can go for the referencing in a more faster and the more accurate way. So one by one, I would discuss with you that what are the key segments and share some of the tips with you that how you can write each section effectively. So an introduction should set out the research question that you plan to explore and give the idea about how you might go about it. So should contain at least some of the theoretical foundation and a reasonable idea of why you want to study this issue. It covers knowledge gap. So keep in your mind that introduction is not for filling the pages. Sometimes the students just do, and I have seen some of the thesis that you are conducting, for example, antimicrobial study on some of the synthesized compounds, and your whole of the literature is on some of the anti-cancer or these activities. So basically this is something that you are covering what the information, theoretical foundation of this, that you have planned that proposal, and now eventually you will give that what was the knowledge gap which you are covering, which you are trying to target in your research project. So the tip for this is the introduction may be the last part you write, or you may wish to rewrite it once you have finished to reflect the flow of your argument as they develop. So if some students have started their introduction before their experimental or the result and discussion part, then don't rely that this is your first draft for the introduction. You have to rewrite that for the smooth flow of your arguments, that this is linking with your experimentation and your data and what you infer as a result and discussion. Now the second part of the second section of the thesis structure or the dissertation structure is literature review. So the literature review should emerge from and complement the previous literature. It should summarize the research work in your own work. No details of the experimentation required. Sometimes students do this, that they just try and they start writing everything about the procedure of the group work, what they are citing. So this is not required. You have to mention the key and exceptional finding. So exceptional finding means, I'm not saying that these results should always be the so-called positive. So exceptional finding means that they have conducted the research on some of the compounds, or maybe the pollutants in some of the samples, or any of your business plan, your humanities on any study, any behavior. So you have to mention what was a trend. So according to that, these are the exceptional findings that one has done that work on their paper, on their research work, which you are citing. So you have to find out these findings to mention in a literature review. So you don't have to mention all of their methods they have used for conducting that analysis, but we do discuss some of the methodologies and the schemes when our proposal is all about the methodology and these kind of research is that then you have to quote these methodologies when you are doing some of on the method development kind of research proposal. So the key point or the tip is this, that the abstract and conclusion part is the most helpful for you for writing the literature review. So what is the most effective parts of any of the paper which you should cite, you should read. So there is no need that you go through the whole of the paper, though that is another discussion. But here I am quoting this for all of you, that for the literature review, you should go for the abstract and the conclusion part. And that is the most helpful for you to writing the literature review. Another thing is to keep structure drawing in same object setting to give your thesis a professional look. Sometimes the students and even the researchers do this, that they use the images, they copy that and they paste in their research literature, though they are citing that one and they are giving that references. But if that object setting is somehow the different, that is maybe in Arial, New Times Roman, or they have the different frame, and your experimental and result and discussion has the different object setting, so this is not giving the professional look. It means that you haven't worked enough on your thesis, on your write-up. And the last but not least is assign labels in sequence of your thesis. So this shouldn't be like this, like if I am citing one of the paper from Mr. Haroon's group or someone, and they have quoted their compounds or their samples with the HK or something. So I just quote this one, and in experimental, I am quoting another, or in introduction, another part, I'm quoting the different quotes. So these should be in a sequence of your thesis. That is basically linking that your whole draft is from A to Z. So this is in a continuous flow. So there is nothing that you have written each part by a different person, or this is not in a link with the arguments. Now the third part is the methodology. So methodology is basically not about, it's not just covering the methods. It is about the collection, your measurement, and the analysis of the data. So the elements of the methodology are measurement objectives. So what you have planned. So basically the methodology cover, and it is not starting from your thesis part. It is starting when you start, you have aimed and you have planned your research. So the measurement objectives, that what kind of measurement you will take, what will be the temperature, what would be the sampling condition. So all these come here. Then there is a data collection process. So how you are collecting your data. The third one is recommended survey, and this usually apply in the clinical, in the social, in humanities, and even in some of our science project that we do conduct some of the surveys as well. Then the last one is the reporting plan, that how you will report your results. So fail to plan is basically plan to fail. So if you have properly planned your methodology, your research, and you have the concrete pattern for how you will measure, how you will collect your data, how is there any survey you need, and how you will report that one. So this comes under the methodology. So in some of the thesis or dissertation, that may be labeled as an experimental chapter, so experimentation. So this is basically the methodology which you are sharing here. Now the next part, which is the fourth and the most important and the key part of your thesis is basically result and discussion. So the result section should set out your key experimental results, including any statistical analysis and whether the results of these are significant. Summarize your results in text, figures, and tables to illustrate your points. So rather to use all of the text versions, so do mix it with the figures and tables, because these are the very good visuals and they give the more graphical approach to your write-up. The next is the text and figures should be complementary. Don't repeat the same information. You should refer to every table or figure in the text. So what does it mean? It means that if, for example, I have conducted and I have find out some of the percent inhibition and then the IC50 values of my compounds. So in next chapter, in the next table, if I'm quoting their dose dependent concentration, so there is no need to repeat the percent inhibition if I have given already in the first table. So do give something which is different, or you can compile in a single table if that fits in your window and that looks fine and this is readable. Now the next is the discussion section. Discussion section therefore needs to review your findings in the context of the literature and existing knowledge about the subject. So for example, we conduct the structure activity relationship. So what the experimentation you have done, what the substitution you have made with your compounds, and now you are looking at its behavior's biological potential with reference to your compounds. So these examples are depending on what kind of study you are conducting. So I'm belong to the chemistry, so maybe more of my examples are the chemistry type. So you can relate with that one, that whatever is the overall findings and the conclusion which you have extracted from your findings, your data and your experimentation, now you have to summarize this in your way that, and you have to link that what was the literature, and that is the evidence that support that maybe this is showing that behavior because of that functionality, because of that group. And if you are doing some of the medical or the health project, so that is linked with some of the literature which already showing that this could be creating the problem of the hypertensive or something less like. So that is something which you have to review your findings in the context of the literature and existing knowledge about the subject. Now the next is conclusion part. So the conclusion is basically where in a very short way you are finally making your all of the dissertation or the paper which include your findings, your experimentation, and now you are making it easy and readable for any of the reader that they can find out what are your key findings. So this section will need to have several elements and these are essential. So maybe you are writing the 2 paragraphs, maybe you are writing the 2 pages conclusion, but it should address these elements: a brief summary, which is just a few paragraphs of your key findings related back to what you expect to see. Then the conclusion which you have drawn from your research, that is again essential. Why your research is important, you have to address that either that is contributing to the social community, either that is contributing to the industrialists, either that is contributing to the general health or public. So recommendation for future research, what is the room here for the advancement and what is the next thing you can do, and there is a room for the further study. Now the last one is the final paragraph. This is rounding off your dissertation or thesis. Do mention which SDGs goals have addressed in your project. So unfortunately, some of the students do not know and the people do not know about SDGs. So you can simply Google the SDGs goals and they are the different goals and just examine, because this is giving you the rational approach that what was your project and it is addressing what of the sustainable development goals which you are addressing and which you are targeting in your research proposal. Now the next one is the references. So after writing all of your introduction, literature review, methodology, result and discussion part, now in every chapter, more or less, so you are quoting and you are citing and you are giving the reference of some of the papers which you have already gone through for your proposal designing, and then eventually for the result and discussion, you have used some of the standard methods which you want to mention. So why do we cite in reference? And the reference is something which is constantly changing when you are formatting your thesis. So first thing is that why you cite in reference, that is that beneficial for us? So basically the referencing is something which you need to reference. So sometimes students do annoy with the reference part, and they just try to only mention the one review paper where they just have give the maximum information. So this gives it, you are easier for this. So how a detailed study you have conducted and how you have gone to the original source of the work, that what they have conducted. So the reference is basically enabling you when you're writing assignment for your studies, academic paper, outline your research or reports for what, you need to highlight your use of other ideas in Word, so that you give the original author credit for their own ideas and work. So this is basically the ethics, research ethics and science and ethics, that once have done this, so you duly and you acknowledge that author's idea and their work. Second is validate your argument. So this is giving that if you are mentioning this is the paper which has published, and that is the recognizable, and this is in a prestige journal. So it is validating your argument, that you are proving, you are linking your experimentation in your results and discussion. Then enable the reader to follow up the original work if they wish to. So if I'm reading your work and you have code that reference, and for this, if you, for example, if you have use some typical method for the data collection, so I will go the further detail, because that detail you are not discussing in your paper. So you are discussing your experimentation and your result and discussion. So if I have to check that method in detail, so then I have to go for that paper. Enable the reader to see how dated the information might be, that what for up to how many years and from when you have started that literature review and you quote it. So how dated you are in about your project and your research proposal. Prove to your tutor lecturers that you have read around the subject, and this is only not the proof for the tutor and the lecturer, this is all also a proof for any reader and your external, that how much work and the detailed study you have conducted before your experimentation, and to validate your methods. And the last but not least is avoid plagiarism. When you give the reference and when you give the credit to the original author, so this is not adding as a plagiarism, because now you have mentioned and you have reference and you have cited that one. Now, after this, so we have this slide. So this slide is basically to give you the overall view that what we are discussing and what you should follow. So plan your thesis. It demands a range of research skills. So do skill yourself. Maybe you need some of the soft skills. You need to use Excel. You need to use some of the word training. You need to know the grammatical, how the language should adopt. So your vocabulary. So all of these research skills and your graphs and your visuals, how the graphical abstracts and the pictures you will add in your thesis. Always be written, your thesis will always be written in the third person and in the passive voice. As an example, you might write an experiment was carried out to test. Manage appropriate time for proofreading and review. So don't come to your supervisor or your peer or at the very neck of the time, that in the last moment you are coming for the proofreading and you even haven't bothered to read that one. So the proofreading is very essential after your drafting, because as you are reading and you are reviewing, so this is giving you, is there anything which you need to change? So give the due time for reading to your peers, to yourself and your supervisor, so you can highlight if that need to revise, that has to rewrite, or there is something to add, or there is something to remove. So whatever style is preferred, aim to keep your language simple and jargon free. So you don't need to find the hardest vocabulary or the hardest word in the dictionary, or to code the different language words to give the impression that this is something the very extraordinary. So your work sounds and it speaks aloud what the quality of your work. So these are not actually the difficult words or the hard dictionary if you are using this one. So there is a checkpoint for you, that what is, if someone can comment on a chat, that in this slide, are you able to see anything which you are not able to understand? Maybe that is something text or something. So you think I have quoted here and you are not able to see that one. So, or you may know this before. So can anyone just comment on the chat? Okay. Yeah, so that was that. I just wanted to check that here in the slide, I can title this slide as a summary. I just picked the difficult word in Bibliography. So there is no need that you use these kind of words which someone has to check and have to search in an English dictionary, and if you are not finding that word. So you can use the more professional words and you can enhance your vocabulary, but don't go for something which is the floral words and which are not the technical and which are not fulfilling your purpose. So at the last, the take home message is basically that you need to be scientific, creative, and ethical. So the science ethics and the research ethics are very important. Don't manipulate your data. If you are conducting some of the research and this is not showing so-called positive results, even then, this is your research. So this is making for other scientists easier, that they do not adopt that path. They do not need to go with that compounds for that certain biological potential, because this is not showing the high potential. So your research is always positive. So what are the findings? So do review these one or two times. So then you have infer rightly. So next is to skill yourself as much as you can. So now in this time, this is not hard for you. You don't have to go everywhere in person. You don't have to pay every time. So there are the very few, there are many resources which you can use to skill yourself. So I have quoted three of them. So you can go for the skill you need. It's a very good site where you can see the different literature and the guidance for going through your dissertation and your other soft skills. There is a Researcher Academy by the Elsevier, where you can go for the different webinars, lectures, and trainings, and they do give you the certificate also for every successful completion. Now, another source is the LinkedIn Learning, and you can you can adopt these modules and the learning courses, and you can skill yourself. So that was all from my side, and thank you for your for listening that one. And if you have any questions, so please you can write on the chat. So I would be happy to answer you. Thank you so much.
Yes, if there are any questions, you can write on the chat. If you want to ask anything from Dr. Hira, and she can answer your question. Okay, and all right. So we'll keep taking your questions from the chat, but in the meantime, we'll shift over to Mr. Rashid, and he will. Sorry, Mr. Over to you, Mr. Rashid.